Here to help you unlock the power of Tier 4 marketing to increase profits are David Booth, operating partner with WG Auto Group, Jonathan Dawson, president of Cellcology, and Paul Sansone, dealer with Sansone Jr.'s 66 Auto Mall. Please give them all a warm welcome.
Hello and welcome to this presentation entitled Unlock the Power of Tier 4 Marketing to Increase Profits. I'm Jonathan Dawson. I'm joined by two friends and clients and fellow dealers in the automotive space, Paul Sansone Jr. of Sansone Jr.'s 66 Auto Mall and David Booth of Schottenkirk Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. The experience that you're about to have is a unique one because you're going to be able to learn about Tier 4 marketing from three completely different perspectives. I've been teaching Tier 4 marketing to dealers for the last 15 years as a consultant, helping them implement these strategies at their dealership. Paul Sansone Jr. has been using these at the dealer level for his team, and you'll learn more about how he's executing it from that perspective. And David, from the grassroots bottom up, has been equipping his salespeople individually to exercise Tier 4 strategies for their dealership. So as we go through this presentation, I think you'll find not only Tier 4 to be an exciting way to sell and market and retail automobiles, but also a very unique way that you can incorporate it into your dealership. I want to begin with a very simple, big, bold promise. My promise is this, that about an hour from now, you're going to feel a mixture of emotions, if you will, an emotional stew of inspiration, conviction that you should try new things, feeling challenged even, and you should feel 100% confident that you can increase profits using Tier 4 marketing strategies at your dealership. To begin, I think we should start by identifying and defining what it is that makes a Tier 4 marketing strategy or culture for your company. Tier 4 marketing is marketing beyond the manufacturer, beyond the zone, and even beyond the dealership. Traditionally, we know that Tier 1, 2, and 3 is the way that most dealers operate their business. But in this case, we're going to go one level deeper, and we're going to take a look at how do we help the salesperson become the star of the show. Salesperson-directed marketing, what we call Tier 4 marketing, is a unique way of equipping an individual salesperson. We believe that that individual can become the driving force of your business. The individual can become a driving force and generator of their own traffic. The way that we do that is by equipping them with mobile-ready apps, ways that they can communicate with their clients using technology that's readily available in every one of their hands. We also believe that they should be equipped with ways to market themselves online, using websites personally branded for themselves, and teaching them how to leverage social tools, and even creating Facebook advertisement or other social media marketing strategies to grow their business. Fundamentally, the idea of Tier 4 marketing is simple. What we believe is that you can help build your business by building businesses within your business. Doing so will generate leads, prospects, and sales for your company. Here's a question I think we get asked a lot. Why Tier 4 marketing? My traditional marketing seems to be working. Why would I do something different? There's a couple of reasons I'd like to highlight for you. The first one is that Tier 4 marketing will grow your sales while also increasing your profit per sale. We're going to showcase how that's possible today. The next thing you need to know is that we will dramatically, in many cases significantly, reduce turnover by developing your people. Teaching your people how to grow their business will keep your people in your business. The next one is impacting your community through unique campaigns. We want to empower your people to go out into the marketplace, their friends, family, the local businesses, the charities, the organizations, the things that they care about, and show them how to take those relationships that are already existing and do something special and fun with them that not only makes a difference, but will help you make a dollar. So here's a question I have for you, and this is the question I think every dealer who's going to consider Tier 4 marketing has to embrace. The question is this: do you still believe? Do you still believe that people fundamentally still buy from people they know, like, and trust? Is that something you still believe? Do you believe this is still fundamentally a people business? That it's not a product business first, or it's not a price business first. It's not about who has the nicest facility. It's about people. If you believe that, you're in the right spot. The next question is, do you still think that customers care about their shopping experience? If you're a type of dealer or management team member who thinks that, really only customers care about today is just the price, if you feel that way, Tier 4 marketing might not be for you. But if you think customers still fundamentally care about how they're treated in the process and through the experience they have with your people, then Tier 4 marketing is going to be for you. The next one is this: sales professionals. Do you believe that sales professionals who build a book of business will not be stuck having to depend on the dealership to generate their traffic? Do you believe that they can be set free from the bondage of lot ups? If you believe that, you're in the right place. Now, to get started today and to incorporate my friends and speakers here, I want to start by introducing my friend Paul. Now, Paul Sansone is an owner and dealer himself of Sansone Jr. 66 Auto Mall. It's a Nissan and Kia franchise in Neptune, New Jersey. He's a second-generation dealer, and so he's really kind of spent his entire life in the car business. He's also the creator of PMB and Easy Referral Network, which were solutions he initially designed to support his own sales team to help them become better and more equipped at leveraging Tier 4 strategies. And he is the founder and trademarker of the term Tier 4 marketing. From a dealer's perspective, he's the one that's helping not only his store, but some other stores implement this strategy. With that being said, I'd like to take a moment to introduce my good friend, Paul Sansone Jr.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. First off, I guess I need the slide.
Yeah,
there we go. And I got to get this thing working properly. There we go. All right. First off, I adopted Tier 4 marketing as a strategy for my dealership out of my own sense of need. There were two instances that actually led me to point to this direction. One of them was a customer that was one of those very difficult customers to deal with, that wouldn't give a name, just wanted the best price, and just simply asked us, why are you guys making this so difficult? The fact of the matter is, I walked up to the gentleman and I said, because I don't really understand the question you want us to answer. He said, what's so difficult about this? I just want the best price on this car, and I asked this gentleman to give it to me, and he can't give me that. So I said, well, look, because I'm a little confused. The guy says, what are you confused about? I said, I just don't know what price to give you. The gentleman looks at me, questions, and he has all of his notebooks under his arms of 5 other places he's been to. He says, I just don't know what price to give you. I either have to give you a price that's lower than the 5 dealers you've been to and lower than the other 5 dealerships you already told me you're going to go to, or I have to just show you, here's the invoice on the vehicle, here's the rebates that apply, we generally have a margin of X amount of dollars, and say this is the price we're going to sell you the car for. So, and that's what I did. And the gentleman looked at me, and I either thought he was just going to walk out frustrated, but he didn't. He just said, well, what's my trade worth? So after he saw the numbers, we went out. Then I knew he was engaged in the process. Went out, looked at the trade, pulled out every training thing I knew in my head, looked at the tires, looked at the thing, what would you do to recondition the car? We came back into the showroom. The customer said, in other words, so this is what you're going to sell me the car for? This is what you're giving me for my trade? I said, yes. He shook my hand and said, thank you. That is by far the worst price I've gotten, but the best deal. And I looked rather quizzitively, and my manager asked right in front of the customer, he goes, does that mean the gentleman's buying the car? And I said, I really don't know. I've never heard that before. So the customer leaves, goes out in the parking lot, and car dealer 101 is go out and give him another $50, give him another $100. Let's see what we could do to get him in. And I told everybody. And, you know, when the owner gets involved in a negotiation, all the salesmen are like, does this guy still know what he's doing? And they're watching at the showroom window and everything else. So the fact of the matter is, the guy goes out to his car, he gets on his cell phone, he's there for like 5 minutes, which seemed like an eternity. He comes back in the showroom, and he says, can you give me another $200 off for my trade? I said, it's another $200 more for my trade. I said, absolutely, shook his hand. But I said, and I'm still holding his hand. I said, but I got to ask you a question. What did you mean by that is by far the worst price and the best deal? He goes, you can see, I have prices that are thousands of dollars less than what you have. He goes, you were honest, I believed you, and I realized you're entitled to make a profit. And it turned out he was actually a military analyst, so he was a very analytical guy. But that one thing led me to, it just hit my head and said, price is important to everybody, but the experience and the trust level is just as important. The other thing that actually moved the needle for me, or my head in this Tier 4 concept, was a glowing email I get from a customer that tells me we're the best dealer he's ever done business with, traveled farther, you know, all of these wonderful things in the email that he could have bought from 5 other dealers. We're the only one that were honorable and kept our price. Then he comes back, and I said, well, that's wonderful. I go to congratulate the managers, and I go actually to look at the deal we made, and we lost thousands of dollars to sell them a car. I said, there's got to be a better way. If that is the only way for us to be an honorable dealer is actually take the loss that no dealer wants to take, there's got to be a better way. And that's what led me to Tier 4 marketing. Tier 4 marketing led me to bring my salesmen back into the sales process. Tier 4 marketing, I wanted to bring the relationship selling back into my dealership, and it started with teaching how to build referral networks. It led to other technologies, as Jonathan alluded to. I've decided to bring my salesmen back into the loop. As Jonathan mentioned, this is a people business. I still believe we've been trying to get salesmen out of the conversation for 20 years now. The fact of the matter is, I believe they are squarely in the conversation, and we are now left with an industry with almost an 80% sales turnover for non-luxury brands, and there's no way to create relational transactions when you have nobody there that you can develop a relationship with. So I actually came up with the solution for high sales turnover, Jonathan.
What's that?
We could all, as dealers, and there's dealers out there, we all as dealers can just give our salesmen more money. And I guarantee you, we will absolutely stop sales turnover if we give them more money. Or the alternative is give them an opportunity to earn more money by training them and manning them with today's technologies, and that's really what Tier 4 has done. Tier 4 from my dealership, as I said, has brought my salesmen back into the business. Tier 4 at my dealership has virtually eliminated salesmen's turnover. Tier 4 at my dealership has increased my grosses. Tier 4 has got my salesmen involved. And the one non-replicatable widget that you cannot replace is a professional salesperson dealing with your customers. There is nothing that's going to be presented in this auditorium today or at these shows that will replace, in my opinion, that professional salesperson handling your customers. So that's really why I created Tier 4 marketing. Now, David Booth, who I'm going to introduce shortly, David is also a fellow dealer. And as I said, I adopted Tier 4 as a strategy, as a marketing strategy at my business. David is a dealer that was doing Tier 4 conceptually prior to me bringing it on, and he has done it on the salesman's level. David is the dealer operator and general manager of Schottenkirk Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. He's been in business since 2001, grew his dealership over 200% in 12 months. Father of 6, unbelievable. Father of 6, so he has to work hard. Father of 6. Husband to 1, I like that little tagline, husband to 1 in the car business, and he's a Tier 4 dealer that has embraced the process. David?
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Glad to be a part of this presentation. And as I share my experience with being a Tier 4 dealer, I'd like to just share my insight of how being a Tier 4 dealer means, in my opinion, empowering your people to make a difference and teaching them how to fish versus just handing them fish. And I like to use that analogy because in my dealerships, as I've used these strategies, we have developed people to create their own book of business. And when you do that, when you teach salespeople how to go out into the market and market themselves, they become a part of your culture and they want to be a part of what you're doing. And the reason they do is because you're equipping them to be more successful. They're not standing at the front door just waiting on the up bus to roll through. I think with the strategies and some of the things you're going to see later in this presentation, you'll be able to take away real things that you can take back to your dealership or start implementing right away. And it's very important to me when I was asked to come to NADA and share that I wanted to be able to bring the idea of Tier 4 and bring it home to you guys, because this is very important to me. It's how I operate my business. And when we talk about Tier 4 and developing that type of culture, I think it's really, really critical to the future of the car dealership and developing your people so that you have less turnover, you have more stability within the dealership, and you have people that can grow with you in your organization. And I think going back on my history of becoming a Tier 4 dealer, it goes back almost 5 years when John and I started working together, and I realized that I was more about profits and volume and just making money, and I wasn't really developing my people and my culture. With that type of culture where it was just all about getting the next sale, I was losing people, and I couldn't figure out why people kept leaving me. And what started to change is when I realized that the most important asset in my organization was the human element, and teaching these guys and girls how to create their own business within a business. So as we get into the slide, as I started to develop my people, what I hope for you as you're watching this online, I hope, and my hope and opportunity for you is that we as leaders are responsible to make our people better. We shouldn't worry that they will leave us. If we build that Tier 4 culture, they'll stay because we will develop them to be more talented and to drive their own business into the dealership. And we also win as leaders when our people win. We are the ones that will determine the culture and set us down the path towards a Tier 4 culture. And we can execute, we can recruit, and we can develop our people if we really put the right plan in place. And John and Paul and myself are going to lay more of this out later in this slide. It's very, very important that we help be the difference maker within our dealership. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jonathan Dawson. We're going to get into some very specific things that we've done to develop individual salespeople specifically within my dealership to be Tier 4 marketers. And what I mean when I say Tier 4 marketers is we're equipping salespeople to go into their marketplace and drive business in specifically into the dealership to visit them. And in return, it's boosting sales. It's reducing the amount of ad spend considerably because it's a low-cost way to develop your people. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jonathan Dawson. He's a man on a mission, 2 decades of teaching psychology of sales and marketing. He's the founder of Sellcology, Selling Through Psychology. He's a consultant, a trainer, a coach, and an author, and he's also my good friend. I'm going to turn it back over to Jonathan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so as we have tried to implement this strategy across the country, as I've been doing this now for specifically Tier 4 types of approaches with dealers for going on 15 years, the experiences that I've personally seen, and this crosses all brands and quite frankly crosses all boundaries. I've done this now all over the U.S. and several countries outside of the U.S. So what I've seen is not only some of the things they mentioned, the increased gross, the increased units that we would anticipate when you equip your people to make relational buying the focus rather than transactional buying the focus. I think that's a distinction I'd like to stress one more time. I want you to please understand that whenever you're making a car deal, usually the focus is one of the other. It's either a relational business or it's a transactional business that's happening at your dealership. And what we want to emphasize, teach, equip, and empower you with is a relational aspect to selling again, making it back about the people. But I think we've also said, and we're going to get into how this works, but some of the reduction in turnover is so critical. We keep saying that, but we understand in the industry that your turnover drives so many other challenges that you have to overcome. Your ad spend has to be greater. You know, they say that somebody said something, I think advertising is the tax you have to pay on an unremarkable experience. Right, so what we want to do is create unique experiences for your customer. Part of that has to be that you have the same people there. Improved quality of life for team members. Many of the students that I've worked with and some of the team members that are on these dealerships here, what happens is the salespeople end up with a higher quality of life. They're not as stressed when they come into the dealership every day wondering whether they're not going to make a sale, wondering where their check is going to come from, because they have a book of business they've developed. Many of them have more freedom because they're not having to come in on their days off or stay their late shift because of that book of business that we want to grow for them. So quality of life is improved. And then reduced advertising waste and spend. We've already talked about that. And then the final one on this slide simply says creating raving fan advocates for your dealership. Just think about for a moment the words raving fan advocates. This is a completely different approach to looking at your business. We're not saying, let me just sell another car or let me get another customer in the door. We're saying, what would it take to turn this stranger into a friend and from a friend into a raving fan advocate for my dealership, for my business, and for my team? They had some slides where they featured their family, so I thought I'd have a slide where I feature my wife. if you have any questions on how good a closer I am, I'm a pretty good closer. Now, one of the questions that we get all the time is, how did you do it? We get asked, like, well, how do you do this? Like, where does it start? What does that look like? And what I want to outline for you is 7 steps, if you will, to creating a Tier 4 culture at your company. And as we go through the remainder of this presentation, we hope to elaborate on these steps in such a way that you feel confident that you can execute these steps and create a Tier 4 culture for your company. The first step is really to define goals. You must, in advance, know where you're going. You have to decide what are the goals we're going to have as a Tier 4 dealership. When I say goals, keep in mind that something as simple as almost every single month in every dealership across the country, there's a question, what's your goal for the month? A manager somewhere in some dealership is asking a sales team, what is your goal for this month? And we're going around the room and we're asking, 15, 20, whatever the number may be. But what I don't hear being asked, what a traditional store does, is they ask the question, what's your unit goal? What a Tier 4 marketing store might do is ask, how many referrals will you sell this month? How many self-generated customers will you create this month? How many repeat sales will you have this month? That's a question that only a Tier 4 marketing dealership would ever ask, because we have to define our goals in the beginning. We have to start asking, what is the new way we're going to measure success if we're a Tier 4 store? Once we defined our goals, we have to communicate them, which means we have to talk about these things. Many times in a dealership, it's not uncommon to celebrate a victory. Like, it's typical when you have a great deal, great transaction, high profit margin, you get the high five for that great deal. But you know what? We don't usually ask the question, yeah, but was that a referral? Was that self-generated? Did you prospect that person? Did the dealership have to generate that traffic for you? So we want to communicate the goals with the team, not only in the management level, but also with the salesperson level. And then setting expectations, I think, is also really important. So step 3 of the process is to say, what are the appropriate expectations we should have for, let's say, a team member who's been with us for 3 years? After 3 years, is it a fair expectation that you should have 25% self-generated business? After 5 years, is it a fair expectation that you should have 50% self-generated business? Well, if you're a Tier 4 dealer, absolutely. Those would be minimums. But I see dealerships all across this land with salespeople who've been at the same store for 10 years and still don't even have 10% self-generated business. And that's because, unfortunately, there's not really good expectations of that person. We're not telling them what the standard is we hope that they meet. So we want to try to elevate our expectations. Now, to continue building this Tier 4 culture, the next thing you have to do is provide some training. It's very important that you don't just tell them, go out there and get referrals. Go out there and prospect in your community. But you got to equip them with some skills. You need to teach them what to do. Now, keep in mind, not everybody is going to want to do this. Not everyone's going to have the same desire or drive to do this. That's also normal too. We'll talk about that in the Q&A session, whether or not this has to be an all or nothing approach to marketing. But when you're trying to develop your people, what you want to do is find within each type of salesperson that you have the area that can be developed and provide them with the training and resources they need to execute effectively so they can begin to generate results. Once you do that, once you begin to train them, you must empower your team. I find it so challenging sometimes that a salesperson will come to me with an idea and say, well, hey, I have this idea I wanted to execute. But when I talked to my management about it, they didn't like it, so they said no. That's silly. So I sit down with the management, I just don't like that branding idea. Or I just don't like that marketing idea. Or I just don't think that approach would work. I wouldn't like that if I was a customer. And I say, you know what, I appreciate it. But unless it's unethical or illegal, give them the empowerment to try. If they're excited about it, why squash it just because you don't like it? So empower your people, give them the ability to fail, but give it to them in a way where you've given them also the training to succeed, and give them the freedom to try. Once you've properly trained and empowered them, you have to hold them accountable, and then you have to ask them if they're executing properly. But holding your team accountable means that you're asking the follow-up questions. Hey, we talked about creating that Facebook ad for you. What step are you at in creating that ad? Or when was the last time you checked on the amount of traffic you're getting to your personally branded website that we provided for you? Looking into the accountability is also really important, and making sure that they are executing properly. Ultimately, it leads to results, right? We want results. That's the only reason we're doing this fundamentally, is as a business, we want to generate profits and sales and create customers. So if it's not working, we need to adjust, right? So that's the idea here. And what I want to do is explore with the dealer panel now some questions, commonly asked questions that we've all experienced. And hopefully by asking these questions, you're going to get some new ideas of how you can build a Tier 4 culture at your company. So starting with the frequently asked questions, I'm going to open it up to both David and Paul and let them both maybe answer what their thoughts are on some of these questions we get asked all the time. So the first couple of questions that we have is, so is the goal to have an all or nothing approach to Tier 4 marketing? Does it require that everybody gets on board? And then what were some of the biggest challenges that you had in creating and implementing a Tier 4 culture? So Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, initially, it absolutely will not be an all proposition. You have a floor that is already standing with a current culture that they've developed, whatever that is at the dealership. So what you're looking for are a few salesmen that have the inclination to want to develop their own brand, the inclination to be a personal marketer. At my dealership, my salesmen, it started with 3 salesmen out of 18, and it grew to now it's almost 15 of 18. At my dealership, it is optional. My salesmen do financially contribute to be part of a Tier 4 to be part of the Tier 4 plan. Obviously, they're only paying a portion of what I'm investing, but but again, it is optional. Do not expect it to be an all or nothing. You can't change a culture overnight. But the 3 will turn into 6, will turn into 8, because the salesman will be making more money, and that's really what the end result for this has been for me.
David, what were some of the challenges initially that you ran into with trying to create a Tier 4 culture?
Yeah, I think to echo what Paul was saying, some of the challenges were faced in my people being so stuck in the certain way that they had been doing business, that to develop that new culture, it meant to break some of the old habits and to give them tools that maybe required them to think outside the box. So, in the beginning, expect that you'll get a little bit of resistance, especially from, people that maybe have been selling cars for 10, 12, and even 15 years. But as they see this unfold, they too will start to develop these strategies and work with you, because they'll see the success and they'll see the increased business and the fact that it becomes a fun way to sell cars, a more relational way to sell. And that makes it fun for everybody involved, salespeople and managers alike.
So a couple more questions that have to do with the team. Did you recruit or did you develop your existing team? So was it let's go ahead and replace some of these people because they won't adapt? Or did you just say, let's stick with what we have because they're good people and let's try to grow them incrementally? And then how did you set expectations for your team?
I think I can take the first one. Recruiting, we did some recruiting because I had the idea of what the ideal candidate would look like in this Tier 4 culture, but also as we started to develop a Tier 4 strategy and really developing salespeople and teaching them how to go out into their market, into their areas of social media or their areas of involvement within the community, they came along and started to develop. So I think it's really a 2-part idea of where you will have some staff that will adapt, and then you'll go out and recruit staff that are people that are ideal for what you're trying to develop at a Tier 4 level.
First thing I did, to be honest with you, is we have the luxury of coming to these different conferences, learning about what's going on in the industry. Most salesmen don't have that opportunity. So the first thing I did, and you were part of some of the training meetings, is I was explaining to them what Tier 4 is all about, what we're trying to accomplish, so that they can visually understand it. I told them I went to the town of Neptune where I'm from, and I asked them to, allow the up bus to stop in front of my building anymore. And they told me the up bus doesn't stop there.
The city council said we're not going to.
City council denied it. I went in there, I put in my application, I wanted my no up bus rerouting, and I explained to them that everything's happening in the virtual world. And if they are going to be fishing, they got to be fishing where the fish are, and that is in the virtual world. And how the level of me advertising is all transactional. Mine is deal offer as a dealership, but their level of marketing is relational, and why those are the best leads to get. So I really think the first thing was explaining to them and seeing who the hand raisers were. And then from the hand raisers, you have guys that say, all right, that makes sense. I feel comfortable with the concept. And then it goes. But now as I hire, I am hiring with the intention of you knowing that 50% of your business is coming from your own book of business. And with the onboarding,
So even a brand new person is expected, whether they've sold cars or not, that their expectation is established right away that within a short period of time, you will be responsible for 50% of your sales volume.
And it started with my son who graduated college, and by chance I was having a BDC training, and he went through BDC boot camp, and I said, look, this is your first step. He walked out of the BDC. After 90 days, knew how to make 100 phone calls, knew how to handle internet leads, knew the word tracks, knew his product, knew the CRM as a tool to actually build his business, and jumped on the floor and was selling 15 plus cars virtually immediately and making a six-figure income as a salesman his first year. I replicated that several times and even bigger expectations. And if you think about it, you can't get salesmen today. Really, they're walking out of this process armed to earn money, which is what's going to keep them from being the salmon going upstream, just hoping to survive the bear in the water.
So when we look at Tier 4 as an integration, we have to ask the question, how does Tier 4 marketing integrate with your current advertising budget? What's your allocation then? What are you doing? Like, how much money are we talking about here? And are we replacing money with what we were spending? Are we adding to our budget? What does it even cost to implement Tier 4 marketing campaigns as a general? So, David, how did you approach the idea of the money?
Yeah, so Paul and I are a little bit different in this respect. His is kind of equal across the board. I would look specifically to salespeople that really embraced it, and my involvement would be a little bit higher with the ones that were immediately going after it. For example, if there's a specific campaign on social media that one of my guys that's really developing his own brand within my dealership wanted to tackle, then I would support that up to 70% of the spend. So I was going more than half of what the spend may be in specific campaigns to really show these guys that if they'll embrace a Tier 4 mindset of meaning going out and figuring out how to drive referral and relational buyers into my dealership, then I would cover as much as 70% of the spend.
Well, again, mathematically, I did not spend a dime more, and eventually I was ending up spending less and generating, I passed over on my slides, but with the same spend increasing web traffic 300%, with the same advertising spend increasing sales 40%. So the fact of the matter is I actually am spending significantly less per car. But initially, every dealer can look at their ad budget, and I'm sure you're going to find some wasted dollars in your ad budget. Initially, that's what you're looking for. You're reallocating, and it could be as little as 2%. 2% of a budget can be as little needed to get started, and I'm up to 5% now. But I haven't spent a dime more. All I've done is reallocate and look at what's being effective.
And you're reallocating it to things like helping them with their personal branded websites, helping them with Facebook advertising, creating tools, giving them access to tools like video email tools. So you use mailing cards for
send out cards. We have a lot of things that I'm doing to a lot of tools that my salesmen have available to them, and you may touch on it later, but not everyone is going to be great at all these things.
Of course, and not everybody's expected to use every single resource.
Right.
Okay, well, so then let's get back to the topic that I know that you had both mentioned, and that's near and dear to probably every management team member who's watching this stream right now, is turnover. There's a fundamental problem we have in our industry of having one of the highest turnovers for any industry, and it's at the root of many other problems. So how does Tier 4 impact turnover? We've touched on it a little bit, but elaborate. And then how has Tier 4 made a difference for your store overall? David?
Well, from a turnover perspective, I think when you develop your team members to, I hate to use the cliche, but you teach them how to fish. You teach them how to go out and drive business specifically into the dealership to deal with them. They become bonded with you. When you teach these guys and girls how to develop their own business within your business, they will become a part of your culture, and they'll help you win. And we've talked about gains and increases, and I agree with Paul. It was common for me to go out and spend money trying to convince people to come in and do business with me at a mass market type level. Well, on the Tier 4 side, your individual salespeople are getting into these relationship type deals with customers, and it's far less expensive. And when you teach them how to do that, they want to stay and grow with you because you're investing in them specifically to grow their business within your business. And then the dealer wins, the managers win, and the salesperson ultimately wins.
Yeah, in fact, I know that since we originally submitted for the NADA, the numbers that we originally put on the slide, which were accurate for the time, have
Right.
actually improved for both of your situations on
It's
where you're at now.
yeah.
It's even better.
It's
Yes.
it's
It
virtually
gets better
yeah,
as time goes by.
time
It just-
goes on.
everything gets better,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. And again, it really starts with helping them make a good living. A wonderful cliche from my wife is, "You get what you pay for," and the fact of the matter is, by them earning more money, we are retaining a much higher quality person.
Yeah.
And it's so funny seeing customers come back surprised that the same people are there.
Isn't that
I
wonderful?
mean, it's really, oh my God, you're still here, because it's a surprise. And that's one of it's at the fun cycle where it can actually be fun selling cars again, because it's people you know instead of just the price.
Yeah, which obviously then brings us back to why we're really doing this beyond our people. We're doing this for your customer. And so the next questions are really about the customer impact and the customer experience. How has Tier 4 impacted the customer experience? How has Tier 4, what have you done to help you create raving fan advocates? What are some things that you've done to create that? So Paul, how does it affect the customer side, and how do we start seeing these raving fan advocates?
Well, I think one of my things on onboarding, my philosophy on hiring is that I can't train nice and I can't train desire. And if you have that basic instinct in you to be nice, that person that opens the door, and that desire, that is going to come across to the customer. So if you put all that together with somebody that's staying at the dealership, as I said, it's a much friendlier relational conversation than it is just a price conversation. So the customer experience is spectacular. And if you think about any process at a dealership, every process breaks down when you have turnover. So even if that's an introduction to the service department, explanation of the vehicle, it just carries through so many streams that sales stability
Affects the customer
affects the
experience.
whole customer experience. So it's a much higher quality person.
And from raving fan advocates, what are some things that we did at the store to create raving fan advocates?
Yeah, so a couple things that really stick out to me is when you develop those relationships, and those relationships start to develop over time. For example, when a customer comes back for service and they see their sales rep meets them on the service drive to welcome them into the dealership, that creates a bond between the salesperson and that customer that's so critical. And it really, at the root of this, is turnover. When you eliminate turnover and you can help teach your salespeople how to create their own brand within your brand, customers will come back. They'll refer their friends and family. So, when the conversation comes up that one of their friends is looking for a car, you're top of mind with them as a Tier 4 dealer, because you're working hard to develop that relationship from the very beginning.
This sounds so warm and fuzzy
Yeah.
to do, but the fact of the matter is, it's a lot of hard work.
Yes, it is not easy.
It sounds so warm and fuzzy as an end result, but the fact of the matter is, it is a lot
Sitting
of
where
hard
you guys
work.
are now,
Yes.
It's a lot of hard
you're
work.
It's a
to
enjoying
get
the
there.
fruit of the process.
Yes, it's a
Yeah,
process.
you got to
But-
understand that, and you have to be committed to
Yes.
it. If you're a
Yeah.
dealer, what are the challenges? You got to be committed to a longer term.
This
look.
isn't
This
something that you just try out
It's not
for
a tent
month.
sale.
No,
Yeah.
It's not a
No.
weekend sale
no,
event.
No.
This is a long-term strategy that becomes part of the
But
culture
you
of your
will sell
dealership.
cars today, but the expectation when I invest X amount of dollars is, what's your ROI tomorrow? This may not be an ROI tomorrow. This is something that there will be an ROI, and you have to look at it as an investment versus an expense at the dealer level.
Yeah.
But like I said, all this warm and fuzzy sounds great, but it took me years to get there and to get the team on board, and that's what I think is important for any dealership, any dealer that is willing to look at this. You got to really,
It starts at a core
embrace it.
philosophy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So one of the things that David just made a comment on, which I want to turn to right now, is this idea of building brands within the brand, which for some dealers may be a scary thought at first, and I certainly appreciate that. But if you were to look at the plethora, the abundance of variety of
Plethora,
brands,
man. You're throwing
if you
some
were to
words
look at
out
the,
there.
the variety of brands that we have both developed and seen and worked with, some of which you're about to see some examples of, you'll see that helping a salesperson become unique in the marketplace marketplace is one of the ways that you'll equip them through Tier 4 marketing. In fact, I have on display here some of the types of things that the salespeople we invest in. If you want to call them gimmicks, things like this, but custom branded hats, water bottles. There's a salesman who goes by Duck. There's a guy, his name is the Pickle Man. This is an actual hat.
It looks good on you. I'm sure it looks good on her.
These are for the kids. Gives away a free jar with every car. In fact, this binder is filled with examples of salespeople's personal branding and marketing and strategies. You've heard of the term evidence manual, right? That's a very common term in our industry. This is, if you will, my evidence manual of 15 years of helping develop sales and marketing and personal branding strategies for salespeople. I bring this just to show you examples of what's possible, but now as you watch some of the presentation continues, you'll see an example of one of my personal favorite brands as we look at, ladies and gentlemen, the King has entered the building. Please meet my friend, King Stinson, a salesperson who's built a personal brand around the idea of giving his clients the royal experience.
I've never seen a deal he couldn't close. They all leave and wanna sing his praises, and he's not loud.
What you're watching is a video. That's Alexis. She's the BDC manager.
But he'll get it done.
It's a promotion video for King to send out to his clients when he gets referrals.
But every deal's like meet them, greet them, selfies on a test drive, purple shirt, gold crown, keeping it real now, he don't care. He's gonna get you the deal of dreams, and everybody's like Stinson, Stinson, I'm here to see Stinson.
So this is King Stinson's website, kingstinson.com. That's the homepage of his site. If you Google King Stinson, either by name or by hashtag King Stinson, you'll see that he's all over the web. Spider-Man is actually jealous of King. King's all over the web more than Spider. Hey, here's some of his YouTube screenshots. You see the crowns. The clients sport the royal crowns. These crowns, he gives to them at time of purchase. They are inducted into his royal family. And this is just a couple of screenshots of his YouTube videos.
And if I can interject, John, this is a sales rep. When we started working with him on this idea of Tier 4, he was struggling to sell 10 to 12 cars a month. And you know, as he started ramping up towards this idea of developing a brand within my brand, and we taught him how to do these things socially and drive referral business, 80% of his business came from referral. And, you know, it didn't get there overnight. He ramped up towards that, but he was committed to this Tier 4 idea, and it paid off. It paid off for him, it paid off for the dealership, helped our you know, take that specific dealership from number 10 in the state to number 1 in the state, and he was a big part of that.
At one point, King Stinson's personal website was the #1 traffic generator for your
That's correct.
dealership's website.
That's correct.
More
Because
so than any paid vendor that you had.
That's exactly right.
That's how much traffic he was generating of his own accord to his own personal website. So let's take a look at another example. In case you're wondering who sells cars to women, Paul had a program that he created years ago to help female salespeople to market and Tier 4 market themselves into their community of women buyers. So let's take a look at that.
Hi, I'm Paul Sansone Jr.
And I'm Chris Sansone.
from Sansone Jr. 66 Auto Mall in Neptune, New Jersey, where my wife Chris is going to introduce our Women Selling Cars to Women team. Most dealers try to teach guys like me how to sell cars to women like you. Chris has a better idea.
Why don't we have our women sell cars to women? Introducing our staff of women at Sansone Jr. 66 Auto Mall. Take it.
Hi, I'm Teresa and I work in finance.
I'm Karen and I work in Nissan.
I'm Gina and I work in internet.
I'm Audra, I'm in Nissan sales.
I'm Nicole, I'm the internet manager.
And I'm Stacy and I work in Kia sales.
Come see us at Sansone Jr. 66 Auto Mall.
Where we work hard
to make car buying easy.
So that's Chris, Paul's wife, who's a part of the advertising team there at the dealership, and that's the team of female salespeople and BDC agents who support the females who want to go car shopping in your marketplace.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of I came up with the idea because I realized one day walking around the showroom that I had a few saleswomen, and I obviously in the industry, this is all about relational selling. The number one networking group is women, and a lot of places took the approach to why don't we teach guys how to sell to women. Yeah, my approach was different. Let's just try to hire women, create an environment that they feel comfortable in working in, and I got to say, it's been a spectacular program. You know, some women just feel more comfortable dealing with a woman, and I just want to be able to provide that process for them.
And we're going to
go
see
in.
an example here momentarily with one of your salespeople and how she specifically leverages some of the tools that you provide to market to them.
But that's part of what this is all about. It's all personal branding, and obviously Audra's a female salesperson that we are taking. That's the Tier 4 concept, that we're looking at Audra as a business within my business, and how would I market Audra, and who would the audience be that's attracted to Audra, and what message would she be saying to that Audra, to that audience, and that's what we're doing.
So let's take a look at another example of how to incorporate Tier 4 marketing on a community scale. Beyond just looking at a target demographic, maybe you try to identify a target audience, in this case a school district. And in this scenario here, what David did was he partnered with several of his salespeople who wanted to get into the school district and become the official salespeople for the entire school district. We created a raffle of a car, and this is a little bit of what happened with that campaign.
Over $45,000 raised. Over $45,000 for the good of Douglas County Schools.
Thornton Road Hyundai has been fabulous about allowing the Sonata to actually go to the different schools to help build excitement and get more people at the schools in order to see what's going on in the Douglas County school system.
Hey, David Booth here at Thornton Road Hyundai. I'm the general manager and operating partner, and we're so excited to be a part of the Douglas County Schools Partners in Education program.
It was a beautiful Saturday at the Foxhall Sporting Club, as hundreds of teachers, students, family, and friends gathered for a day of fun to celebrate the success of the Douglas County School Raffle. For Robert Hibbard, it was a special day, as his name was drawn as winner of the 2015 Sonata.
Drum roll, please. I have the winning ticket in my hand. The winner is Robert Hibbard.
But the big news was a grand total exceeding $45,000 raised to benefit local Douglas County schools. Keyword, benefit.
We're thrilled that all the proceeds from this raffle is going to be donated to help our schools. We're excited. This is a great partnership, and we appreciate Thornton Road Hyundai.
It's just been a great program overall. We plan to actually use the money in the school to enhance math, science, and writing. We do well, but we'd like to see more growth in those areas.
It was an easy fundraiser for us. Our school received 100% of the proceeds from that. We hope to use it mostly for our fine arts department, PE, art, and music.
I would love to see technical advances for the students at Douglas County High School and the teachers.
We'd like to see a second year of doing this and many more years to come.
It was a very successful, easy fundraiser for the school to maneuver.
For all who assisted in the raffle and helped in putting together this big event, Thornton Road Hyundai says, A+.
I'm standing here beside the 2015 Sonata that we just donated to Douglas County Schools. And we were able to raise thousands of dollars for the school system that'll stay right here in Douglas County. Thanks in part to the students, faculty, and parents, we made this a huge success. Thornton Road Hyundai looks forward to being a part of this again next year and donating another car so that we can raise more money in 2015.
Now, David, you put together this campaign, partnered with several of your salespeople on how to execute it. They were responsible and empowered to help facilitate it, to be at the event. And tell us a little bit what that was all about.
Yeah, one of the reasons we chose the school system is in most of your counties around the country, that'll be your largest employer. So we wanted to look for a way to not only give back to the community, but also reach a very large employer. And by partnering with the school system, we're reaching the educators, the administration, and then all the parents of the students. So it was a way to not only do something really great in the community, but also sell a bunch of vehicles off of it. So it aligns with the Tier 4 strategy of getting out in the community that would not be a traditional advertising strategy, very low cost, and you spread it out over several months, and it generated quite a bit of business.
Just a very quick specifics on it. So what did you actually...
So we donated. We donated a vehicle. I think the total cost of that was around $22,000. They raised over $55,000 for the school system, and they determined where that money would go within each individual school. We got all of the names of everybody that bought a raffle ticket came back into my dealership to be able to.
So you retained all of the names. They're not true leads yet, but they're data.
Correct. Name, address, cell phone number, email address, and we're able to market to those folks.
We followed up with them.
Correct.
The assigned sales reps who were responsible for this campaign then created a call, essentially like a call center.
Yes, community ambassadors.
To thank them for their raffle purchase,
Correct.
for supporting the school district and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful.
Hugely successful.
Yeah, let's take a look at another example here. This is where we've empowered our BDC agent. You saw her earlier in the video with King. This is Alexis again. And this has to do with the creativity that can sometimes come about when you create a Tier 4 culture. And as the BDC team, which you're about to see, a lot of times they'll send out emails to leads, they'll make phone calls, and they won't get a response. Bringing people into the dealership is sometimes a challenge. So in this case, what you're about to see is we thought, well, what if we bring them to Tiers and then bring them into the store?
Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'd be the one who's been calling you.
So this would be a video email that they send out to unresponsive leads.
Called, sent texts out to you.
Again, when you start developing a culture that empowers your people, you get this type of creativity. So I would encourage anybody watching this film or this video to empower your people. They will, they will help your business go to another level. And that's what
You'll
Tier
be
4 is all
surprised
about.
what they can come up with.
Yes.
Some of it's not good, but some of it is very good, very creative. And that's what it's all about. It's people selling themselves.
Yeah, so here's Audra, which we referenced a minute ago, a member of Paul's team, and you're going to see a couple of clips about Audra.
Hey, it's Audra here at Sansone Jr. 66 Nissan. This is awkward video number 2. 66 Nissan. Women selling cars to women. This is awkward video number 2. It's Saturday, not so nice out, it's a little gray, a little overcast, but we do still have our Memorial Day weekend sales. This Girl Sells Nissans, or go to my website, www.thisgirlsellsnissans.com. Thanks, see you soon.
So Audra, if you may have caught in the video clip, she said awkward video number 2. When I was talking to Audra, she's like, I don't like to do video. I think I feel awkward. I look awkward. I sound awkward. I said, yes, you do. It's very awkward watching you, actually. I said, and get over it. Get over it. Come on, lady. Do you want to market? Do you want to start doing this? Let's do this. And she really did want to get good at this stuff, but she just needed some coaching, some encouragement. And so you see on the slide there, thisgirlsellsnissans.com. This is actually the web address for her personally branded website. One of the services that Paul provides, not only to his team, but to dealers nationwide, is the ability to build for your team individually personally branded websites. And this is an example of the one that you built for Audra.
Right. And the one thing I want to mention, I think we all see salesmen in the marketplace now that are starting to brand themselves. As a dealer, I felt it's better for me to grab hold of the process so that I can control content, I can control everything that they're doing, and make it a part of the fabric of my store, as opposed to having individuals outside of the fabric. Because this is getting to be more comfortable, more mainstream, but we're just trying to wrap it in underneath the dealership. And one of the dealers asked, I own the domains. So as a dealer, I'm very protective of making sure that everything stays consistent at my dealership.
You own the domain address You, in this case, own the technology of the website.
Right.
So if, for example, Audra wanted to leave, she could leave as an employee, free will, she could go somewhere else. But she would have to hit a hard reset on most of her branding efforts.
Yeah,
Everything that's
absolutely.
made her successful, if she went down to ABC Motors down the road and wanted to restart, if you and her had a disagreement on something, she's probably not going to just leave.
Yeah, you
she's
have to
going to
think
go,
twice.
I'd have to restart everything I've built for the last 2 years.
That
Yeah?
grass is greener on the other side mentality does not seem to. To
It's not as
foster
attractive.
not as
not
attractive
not
in
when
my
you're a tier 4
dealership,
store.
yes.
And this is an example of a Facebook ad that you support again. And what they have to do is they have to submit the ads.
Right.
You have a process for that for submission. Once they submit the ads and they're approved, the dealership
But they
publishes
do. But
the
the cool part about it is they get to pick an audience. I mean, that's the beauty of some of this virtual
it's targeted
advertising.
marketing.
It's a very targeted
Yeah.
audience, whether it's whether it's zip code, male, female.
Yes.
That's the beauty of this type of marketing. It's very specific.
Absolutely. So obviously we do this to sell cars. I mean, that is what we're in the business to do, retail automobiles. But there's more to it than just selling cars and making money. There's people involved. And as we've already discussed a few of the examples, the reality is when you become a Tier 4 dealership, when you become a Tier 4 directed management team, when you start having a Tier 4 culture at your company, you are part of changing people's lives. It goes back to the warm and fuzzy stuff we like to talk about. But people like Nellie here of NellieSellsCars.com, a Toyota salesperson in Atlanta, Georgia, or people like Kenny, TheKennyLandrum.com. Kenny is a salesperson in Bowling Green, Kentucky. People like Tom Healy, Irishman Tom, who's a gentleman who said, John, I don't know anything about this online stuff, but I do want to be different, and my name is Tom. I'd like to do something so that if they hire another Tom at the dealership, that I don't lose the fact that I've been here for 10 years. So we built a brand, in fact, playing off of his Irish heritage, Irishman Tom. This is Lachey Batchu. He's a salesperson in New Zealand. And so, yes, this idea transfers all the way to the other side of the planet. Then here's, of course, King Stinson on the show floor. People like Turner Simpson here, the professional problem solver. His branding was all about solving people's problems. So he had these gimmicks, if you will, these puzzles, these wooden blocks. They were all symbolic of his desire to help people solve problems. People like Derek Boxell. When I met Derek, he had been folding cardboard for $8 an hour. And had 5 consecutive years since he got in the car business, 5 consecutive years of over $100,000 income at a Kia store in St. Cloud, Minnesota. It's about changing people's lives like Adam Saviors. His brand is Saving with Saviors. His branding strategy is to partner with local businesses that give him coupons that he can then give back to his customers, coupons from dry cleaners, from movie theaters, from restaurants. In fact, in a single year, Adam Saviors collected $60,000. That's right, $60,000 worth of free merchandise from local businesses and local companies in town. And then he redistributes that. In fact, these are his Christmas cards. Here was a gentleman who was selling cars for a long time and not really doing much of any follow-up. But once he became a Tier 4 salesperson, a business person, once he adopted that mindset, these are just some of the business cards he mails out every year, including the gifts of the coupons that he's collected from local companies. So this is really about changing salespeople's lives. Here are some examples of some of the texts that I've received that I would love for your people to be able to also say. Here's one from Bill Stout. It says that he published a video using some of the strategies that we talk about for personal branding. It was published for less than an hour when he had received 5 contacts and set 3 appointments. He confesses that he's amazed at how easy this stuff can be and embarrassed that it took him so long to start it. Here you see that he messaged me later on to say that he loves order taking. He says, I've got customers calling me and giving me people to call. I'm working on 4 deals via text and phone today that are all new referrals today. And then another message from Bill. It says, big 4-car day. He later on says, my life is getting better every day. Out of that 4-car day, 3 were referrals. Here's a picture of me with Bill Stout of BillStoutSellsCars.com. Here's one from King Stinson when King was really getting ramped up and starting to build his business. This is one of the early texts I saved from King. I said, just to be clear, you're at 20 and a half cars so far for the month. Is that correct? He said, yes. And I said, and 8 of them are referrals? Is that also right? He said, yes. In fact, he says it's what's got me over that 15 to 17 plateau that he had been stuck at. Here's another one. This is one from him when he got his first list of 70 referrals from one customer. That's right, you just heard that correctly. He got in a single customer more referrals than most dealerships get in an entire year. One customer, 70 referrals from Mr. and Mrs. Cook. She was going for 100 when her wrist started to swell. Now, 70 sounds absurd. That sounds ridiculous. Who would empty their phone book and give you 70 names and numbers of their friends and family to a car salesman? No one in their right mind would do that. But we're not talking about car salespeople. We're talking about Tier 4 marketers, and there's a big difference. In fact, check this out. Here's an example from one of David's customers. This is a lady who bought a car with her 2 daughters, and at the end of the sale, gave the salesperson, you can see the number on the screen there, 142 referrals at time of sale. They opened up their phone book and gave a salesperson 142 friends and family's names and numbers and said, here's some people I'd like you to introduce and say that I bought a car from you. 142, that's absurd, but we're not done yet. Here's 163, again, another list, and this was the new record at the dealership at that time. 163 referrals. Here's another one, because here's more. Check this out.
Hey, Jonathan, it's Bob Frisbee from Milton Martin Honda in Gainesville. I just want to give you a quick status update and a quick success story and some of the things we covered in training last week. You know, you asked me in training what I thought would be a successful number on a number of referrals from a customer after a sale, and I said, in my 16 years, I've never seen more than 10. And I think 10 would be pretty strong. And when you started telling me figures like 75 and 142, I was a little bit skeptical until we went through your training. And, you know, by the end of it, I was pretty pumped and pretty excited. So, you know, putting all those things together from the YouTube videos to the process and how it's done got me pretty excited. So the other day, I had an opportunity to put that into action. You know, going through start to finish and meet and greet to the close to a sale, I was with a customer and their family for about 3.5, 4 hours. And that's in that amount of time, we built up some fantastic rapport and we're having fun, a lot of laughing going on. And I just, you know, in that time frame to where we were about to go into the business office, had a little bit of a wait there. And I walked over to Lee, one of my salesmen that you know, and I said, you know what? I'm going to try some of this stuff we learned in Jonathan Dawson training here. I'm going to ask for these referrals because earlier on I kind of set it up to where, listen, when we're done with this, I'm going to need a favor from you. And that's when I went over the video. So when I did ask for the referrals, that's how I explained it. I said, I'm not going to hassle your customer or your friends, rather. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send them this video just as an introduction and share with them my experience with you and your experience with me and had that conversation. And they said, sure, no problem. So when I came back with the referral sheet, I had 2 names on there. And again, I had the rapport built up to where I said, come on, you got to be kidding me. 2's all you're going to give me? Fill this thing out. Fill those blanks out. And they laughed and they filled them out. And I said, great. I noticed you have a couple of smartphones there. How many contacts do you have? And they looked at me kind of funny. And they said, well, we got a couple of hundred. And I said, great. I want them all. Again, they laughed. And I said, all my customers do it. This shouldn't be any different. So they started writing. And then the customer that bought the Accord, she said, you know what? I have a way just to send you my whole entire address book. And I'll be darned if she didn't do it. And over the course of the next 15, 20 minutes, her sister's also wanting to get on it and send me her contacts. And it took a day or so to get those from her because we had to go on to the App Store for the iPhone and find something called My Contacts Backup. And we later on got that after about a day or so. But the bottom line is this stuff works. He turned me from a skeptic into a firm believer here and just had a tremendous amount of fun. And I'm not sure what was more fun, actually getting the referrals and able to go down this road of sending the emails or watching the looks on the faces of my coworkers when this stuff was going down. Lee was shaking his head. Audrey in finance was just laughing. They were changing the SIM cards, trying to send me all these contacts. It was just a blast. And Jonathan, I just want to thank you for your training, buddy. And I am really pumped up, but I've kind of set the bar kind of high here for myself at 349 referrals. It's like, kind of, where do I go from here? But I can say to my customers from now on, in full honesty, when they want to give me 2 or 3 referrals, I say, look, my last one gave me 349. Can you give me half of that? Or maybe you want to beat it. Anyway, the bottom line is this is a ton of fun. And for a guy that's been in the business for 16 years, man, thanks for showing me a new way to do stuff. You know, it's a great blend of what I already knew and it's something new and fresh and kind of reinvigorated my my car career here, man. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it, buddy. God bless.
That's right. You just watched Robert Frisbee talk about getting 349 referrals from one customer at point of sale. And $349, that sounds absurd, doesn't it? But it's not even the record. In fact, at the time I developed this slide, I put this particular one from Robert Frisbee. Just last week, the new record has been set. If you'd like to see the video, the live video of the record being set, the new national record, all you have to do is go to Google and type in hashtag Cellcology record. Go to Google and type in hashtag Cellcology record, all together, no spaces, and hit search. The first video that pops up will be a video that explains exactly what happened at the dealership where the new record has been set by a young man named Alex Sumner. The new record is 540 referrals from one customer, and you can watch the whole thing go down. What happens when you create a Tier 4 marketing culture at your company is you create salespeople who are no longer just hunters looking to catch their meal for the day, but you create farmers too who understand that it's not just about one and done selling. It's about creating not just transactional sales, but relational sales. And even beyond relational sales, it's about creating generational sales. And when you have a team that does this, you start to build a unique business in the marketplace. Tier 4 marketing is not a normal way to sell cars, and that's kind of the point of this presentation. We hope that you see that. As we wrap up, there's just a few final thoughts that I wanted to share with you and that David and Paul also wanted to leave you with. So here's my thoughts for you. My hope is that you can now confidently say a few things. I hope you can confidently say that you now understand what a Tier 4 marketing is and the benefits of creating a Tier 4 culture. I also hope that you can confidently say that you enjoyed this interaction here between these two amazing and unique dealers who've been living out a Tier 4 lifestyle. David, I know that you had a few hopes for people.
Yes, I hope that you guys can confidently say that you learned the 7 steps to implementing a Tier 4 strategy. My second hope is that you see that you're blown away by these real-world examples of how Tier 4 can be implemented within your stores regardless of the market type.
And I really am. I'm excited about bringing the Tier 4 culture to my dealership. It's a lot more fun. It really is. It just makes selling fun when you have more people coming in engaging with relational selling. And I just want you to tell your friends and your family what you tell your other auto dealers what you thought about the program. Is Tier 4 a concept do you think you can embrace? I actually think our industry can do a very good job if we adopt this strategy and get our salesmen back into the loop of the selling process.
Yeah. In closing, I want to thank NADA for allowing us the opportunity to share Tier 4 marketing with you, unlocking the power of Tier 4 marketing to increase profits. It's been my pleasure. I know that David and Paul are passionate about this. Thank you so much, and we look forward to your feedback.